Well, good morning, everyone. Now, there's something different about the church today. Have you noticed it? Yes. I know we're at the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed the Christmas tree, and the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that we're a week early, but there are reasons for that. But let's face it, at the minute, the way things are in the world, I think we all need a wee bit more bling in our lives anyway. So it's great to see the Christmas tree up. But next Sunday is the first in Advent proper. Just a few announcements before we begin. You have the bulletins in your hands. Just want to draw your attention to a few. The prayer group meets on Thursday at 7 in the vestry. I think there's still space for the wreath making, Pat, is that right? So there's some space. If you want to make a holly wreath, then Saturday, 2nd of December is your date to get in the diary. And if you want to speak to Pat, she'll tell you a wee bit more about what's involved there. And then flagging up some upcoming services next Sunday. We've got our Silver Band service here in the morning at 11 o'clock with the Bon Accord Silver Band. And then in the evening at 6:30, we've got our Christingle service here in the church. 6:30, a lovely candlelit service with kids especially in mind. So if that's ringing bells, or you've got friends or neighbours or family who you think might be interested, why not encourage them to come along to that next Sunday evening? And then lastly, the annual Christmas quiz is going to be held on Friday the 8th of December, 7:30 in the Forsyth Hall. And again, that's always a really good night in the build-up to Christmas, so please do come along if you can and support that event. Those are all our announcements for this morning. So let's worship God as we sing together hymn number 192, All My Hope on God is Founded. Let's join our hearts together in prayer. Let us pray. Like the sun rising on a winter's morning, Lord, you watch over us, faithful, constant, and true, bringing light that melts the darkness and bringing warmth to chasten the cold. With you, we are never alone. Your wakeful presence is always with us, waiting patiently for our awareness to turn your way and respond to the gravitational pull of your glory and your love. Lord, in you we live and move and have our being. And our lives are a gradual wakening up to that truth. A looking beyond the here and now, the way things are, with the eyes of faith, so we can see not just the limitations of the present, but hope for the future. Thank you that you take us as we are, frail as we may be in body, soul, or spirit, and hold out the hope that in you we can be more and find purpose, whatever our circumstances. Thank you that age, others' expectations or fearfulness, inexperience, doubts, or foolhardiness are no barriers to your being at work in our lives. For you send us out not in the strength we don't have, but in the strength we do, however small it may be. And the only barrier to our being useful in your service is our hesitancy to put our trust in you. Good Father, thank you that you know us, that you take us as we are, and that you call us into all that makes for a living faith. A close walk with you, genuine fellowship with one another that goes beyond surface courtesy, and service in the kingdom of Jesus Christ, wherever we find ourselves in life. So, Lord, may we hear your call in our lives this morning, and may we be ready to answer. And if our hearts hold back because we feel unworthy or foolish or uncertain, if we know ourselves to be out of step with you for whatever reason, grant us in these moments the assurance that when we confess our sin to you and our need, you are faithful and just and will forgive us and help us start over again with a clean slate. God's word says the Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. He will not always accuse, nor will he harbor his anger forever. He does not treat us as our sins deserve or repay us according to our iniquities. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. For he knows how we are formed. He remembers that we are dust. Lord, may we return your great faithfulness to us with commitment to you, remembering the gift that you made to us in Jesus, whose self-offering made our redemption possible. So in his name we pray together, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Our reading this morning is taken from the New Testament, from the book of 1 Peter. 1 Peter chapter 1, and reading verses 13 through to 21. And Francois van Niekerk is going to read for us.
Morning, everybody. Our reading is 1 Peter 1, verse 13 to 21. Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance. But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, be holy, because I am holy. Since you call on a Father who judges each person's work impartially, live out your time as foreigners here in reverent fear. For you know that it was not with perishable things such as silver and gold that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your ancestors, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was chosen before the creation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. Through him you believe in God, who raised him from the dead and glorified him, so your faith and hope are in God. Amen.
Thanks, Francois. Our next hymn is number 361, Forgiveness is Your Gift. Well, it's been a wee while since I inflicted a poem on you, so I'm going to do that this morning to begin. Don't worry, it's not one of mine. It's John Betjeman, and this is called Advent 1955. The Advent wind begins to stir with sea-like sounds in our Scotch fir. It's dark at breakfast, dark at tea, and in between we only see clouds hurrying across the sky, and rain-wet roads the wind blows dry, and branches bending to the gale against great skies all silver pale. The world seems travelling into space, and travelling at a faster pace. than in the leisured summer weather when we and it sit out together. For now we feel the world spin round on some momentous journey bound. Journey to what? To whom? To where? The Advent bells call out, prepare! Your world is journeying to the birth of God made man for us on earth. And how, in fact, do we prepare for the great day that waits us there, the 25th day of December, the birth of Christ? For some it means an interchange of festive scenes on coloured cards. And I remember last year I sent out 20 yards laid end to end of Christmas cards to people that I scarcely know. They sent a card to me, and so I had to send one back. Oh dear, is this a form of Christmas cheer? Or is it, which is less surprising, my pride gone in for advertising? The only cards that really count are that extremely small amount from real friends who keep in touch and are not rich but love us much. Some ways indeed are very odd by which we hail the birth of God. We raise the price of things in shops. We give plain boxes fancy tops, and lines which traders cannot sell, thus parcelled, go extremely well. We dole out bribes we call a present to those to whom we must be pleasant for business reasons. Our defence is these bribes are charged against expenses and bring relief in income tax. Enough of these unworthy cracks. The time draws near the birth of Christ, a present that cannot be priced, given 2,000 years ago. Yet if God had not given so, he still would be a distant stranger, and not the baby in the manger. Well, the season of giving is nearly upon us once again. The organised among us will already have squirreled away our Christmas presents in obscure corners of the house, while the rest of us will be keeping an eye on the calendar and wondering whether we will have time to brave the crowds in town, or will end up shopping at midnight by the light of our computer screens. And between now and the 25th of December, I don't doubt that there will be times when we wonder why we do it. But deep down, I think we know. We do it for the joy of giving, which, if anything, is even greater than the joy of receiving. I used to think that only adults know that, but now I'm convinced that kids know it from a very early age too. Watch their face when a child that you're close to hands you a homemade card, or some artwork that they've done in school, or some wee thing that they've clumsily wrapped up as a present. They're all eyes. They want to see your reaction. That's the payback in giving. And even at 4, 5, and 6 years old, they know that. They know that the reward for the giver is in the joy of the receiver. I have many happy memories of Christmastime as a child, and I've shared many with you over the years. And I remember many of the presents that were spot on: a train set, a Scalextrics, that chopper bicycle that I loved but it nearly killed me. That's a whole other story. A racing bike that I got when I was older. But there was one year that things just did not come together in the Christmas present department. I would have been about 11. And looking back, I take considerable pride that I was among the first in my school to get into a young, up-and-coming Irish rock band called U2. You might have heard of them. They did fairly well. But I would come home after school, and I would go up to my sister's bedroom where they had a record player, and I would get the suitcases and the plastic tubs out. I would borrow my mum's biggest set of knitting needles, and I would drum along to the entire album, the U2's first album, Boy, with Larry Mullen Jr., their drummer. And I would spend like an hour after school every day playing the drums. And unsurprisingly, after months of this, my mum picked up on this new interest. And you can imagine how excited I felt on Christmas morning when I came downstairs, and there in the lounge was a drum kit. But if you think I would have been really pleased, you would be imagining wrong. Because the kit wasn't the real thing. It was kind of a glorified kid's toy. And I'm not sure my parents knew the difference, but I did. And I sat down and I gave it a bash and I tried to be enthusiastic over the next few weeks. But they knew that I didn't like it. And I could see in their eyes that it wasn't just me who was disappointed, that they were disappointed too. Why? Because the reward for the giver is in the joy of the receiver. And I hadn't received that gift with joy. Now, by contrast, years ago when I visited India, I'd been advised to take along some wee presents to give out to kids. And I took a handful of those 4-colour Bic pens, you know, the ones red, blue, green and black. I still use them today. You should have seen their faces when I was giving them out. You would have thought I'd given them the crown jewels. It was like, it's the best thing ever. And more recently, just as lockdown was beginning to ease, Belhelvie School got in contact with me to say that they had been doing a grocery collection and they had 6 boxes of goods to distribute in the community, and would I know of anybody who might be needing them? And I spent a lovely afternoon visiting a few folk who were on their own or were having a particularly hard time, and it was wonderful to see their faces light up with gratitude for this totally unexpected gift. My reward as the giver was in the way that they received the gift. And in today's reading, Peter, the same Peter who was among the first to clamber out of the boats and stow away the nets so that they could follow Jesus, Peter's talking about the importance of one particular gift and how we receive it. If you know the gospel stories, you know that Peter was always a man of action, a guy who wanted to get things done. And that's reflected in the 2 letters that bear his name in the New Testament. They're full of good, practical advice about how to live the Christian life. But Peter's canny enough to know that good advice doesn't change anything. His life didn't change because of good advice. It changed because he had encountered Jesus for himself. And that's why in the middle of all the advice and all the exhortation, he breaks off to say this. He says, you know that it was not with perishable things, such as silver and gold, that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your ancestors, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was chosen before the creation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. He was chosen by God to be our Savior before the creation of the world. A gift, not years, but ages in the making. And it goes further still, because in the book of Revelation, John the Apostle describes Jesus as the Lamb who was slain before the creation of the world. Now think about that for a minute. Because we know that Jesus was killed in around 33 AD. So what's John talking about? Well, what he's telling us is that from the very beginning, God chose to accept the cross for our sake. When we talk about the biblical story, we often speak as though God created and something went wrong and God was caught in the hot and said, oh no, how am I going to sort this out? I know, I'll send Jesus to fix things. That's not how it was. John's telling us that from the very beginning, knowing how things would pan out with humanity, God chose to accept the cross. To be the kind of God who would take the suffering due to us upon himself so that we could be set free from the curse of sin and death that was dragging us down. God has always been that God. The Yahweh that Moses met in the burning bush, and the God who parted the Red Sea and thundered from Mount Sinai, has a cross at his center. He has always been that God, and he will always be that God. How do we know that? Well, we know it because in John's vision of the end of days, he sees someone sitting on the throne of the Almighty. And we might have all kinds of ideas about what that God would look like. Kingly, resplendent, glorious, and in many ways, with other images, he is. But here, John says that he looks like a lamb that was slain. That's what God looks like. And the truth he's trying to convey by that is that from all eternity, the inner life of God has had a cross at its center. He has loved us and given himself to us sacrificially, literally sacrificially, from the very beginning. Have you understood that yet? Says Peter. Do you understand the enormity of the gift you've been given in Christ? The honest answer for many of us, I think, is no. No, we don't. We're too busy to think about it. Too busy to get to church. Too busy trying to make a living or to fashion some kind of life for ourselves. But true life, eternal life, isn't something that we make for ourselves. It's something we can only receive as a gift. And through Christ, that gift is already within our reach. The indescribable gift of a meaningful life made holy, made whole, made good in him. That's what Jesus came to bring you. The gift of your own redeemed life. You had it all along. It was always there, hidden in him. All you need to do is take it from him with thanks and then begin to live it out. And that is what Advent and Christmas and Easter and every Sunday service and 2 millennia of this thing that we call the church is all about. Giving thanks to God for the indescribable gift of the new life that we are blessed with in his Son. That's the gift that he holds out to us, not just at Christmas time, but every single day of our lives. The forgiveness, the restoration, the hope, and the peace that come with knowing him and knowing who we are in him. What does he read on your face as he offers you that gift this morning? May our joy in receiving it be his reward. Amen. We're going to sing together again, and it's number 317, Before the World Began. We'll continue in worship now as our offerings are uplifted. Let's pray together once more. God our Father, as this church year draws to an end and we begin again by remembering the indescribable gift of your Son, born into the world for our redemption, we ask that you'd help us to use this time as best we can to reflect on our living and the one to whom our lives tend. Generous God, giver of good things, we pray for what we need and our world needs in these times. We pray for justice, that those whom the world writes off might be seen and heard and respected by the powerful. For compassion, that no one in trouble should be put away in disgrace, that no one bearing grief or pain might be sidelined. For hospitality, that no door will be shut on those who need to find it open. For peace, that in places of war or strife, common humanity and common sense might overcome all other divisions. For wisdom, that discernment might be the hallmark of all our leaders. For innocence, that children might be preserved from those who would harm them. for generosity, that the gifts that you've blessed us with in life might be received with joy and shared with others. And for worship, that as we approach Advent and Christmas, we might find the time to reflect long on this story and recognize the part that we are called to play in its continuing unfolding. All of these prayers, Lord, spoken and unspoken, we offer in Jesus' name. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is hymn number 519, Love Divine, All Loves Excelling. And now go in peace to love and to serve the Lord. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you all, now and forevermore.